The last warning siren had already stopped. That was the bad sign. When the sirens were still going, there was still time. When they went quiet, it meant the storm was close enough that sound itself did not matter anymore. Ryland Dax dragged a fuel cell crate across the mud and heaved it into the back of his freighter without looking up. Around him, the Orth 5 colony was emptying. Fast, people were running, kids were crying, the colonial transport ships were already lifting off one by one, rising into the yellow sky before the chemical front swallowed everything. Rylan was the last cargo runner still on the ground. He had agreed to carry the final load of medical equipment and 3 families who had missed the first transports. That was the job. He was not a hero. He was a man who got paid to carry things from one place to another, and right now, the job was almost done. Almost. Rylan, his co-pilot Duno's voice came through the earpiece. Duno was a Pelrani, small, 4-armed, and currently sitting inside the ship where it was safe. The storm wall is 11 minutes out. I'm asking you with great personal sincerity to please get on the ship. One more sweep, Ryland said. You said that 8 minutes ago. One more sweep. He walked the edge of the colony, checking between the collapsed prefab units. The colony had been failing for 2 years before the evacuation order finally came. Half the buildings had already fallen in. The other half were leaning. He almost missed it. A child, one of the families already loaded on the ship, had pointed at something before boarding. She had not said anything, just pointed. Rylan had filed it away and kept working. Now, walking past the remains of what used to be a supply depot, he stopped. There was a sound, very small, like something trying to breathe and not quite managing it. He pushed a sheet of corrugated metal aside. Under it, in a hollow between 2 broken support beams, was a creature. It was roughly the size of a large dog, though it clearly was not fully grown, scaled. Dark green-black, it had 2 wings, both folded tight against its body, one of them bent at an angle that wings were not supposed to bend. Its eyes were half shut and glazed. Its whole body was shaking in a slow, rhythmic way that Rylan recognized from his years doing emergency relief work. It was in the early stage of shock. He crouched down. It did not react to him, not even a flinch. Duno, he said quietly into the earpiece. What has 4 limbs, 2 wings, scales, and looks like it hatched recently? A pause. Then Duno said something in his native language that Rylan did not understand. He recognized the tone, though. He had heard Duno use that tone once before, when they had accidentally drifted into a restricted military corridor. Duno. Do not touch it. Duno's voice was very flat and very careful. Rylan, I need you to back away from it slowly and come to the ship right now. That is a veil. Hatchling, that is Rylan. Those are the creatures that conquered warships. Move away from. Do you understand what I am telling you? Rylan looked at the hatchling, the shallow breathing, the bent wing, the mud crusted around its face, where it had been lying with its cheek against the ground. It was left behind, he said. Sometimes things are left behind for reasons. It's in shock, Duno. Its wing is broken. It'll be dead in an hour if the storm doesn't get it first. Rylan. He was already pulling off his outer jacket. It was his good one, waterproofed, thermal-lined. He spread it out next to the hatchling and very slowly, very carefully slid his hands under its body. It was heavier than it looked. It made no sound. That was the part that worried him most. A healthy animal, even a young one, would have snapped at him, would have struggled. This one just lay there and shook. He wrapped the jacket around it, tucked the wings gently, and held it against his chest the way he had once held a 6-year-old, pulled from a collapsed building on a flooded planet 3 years ago. Firm, steady, moving fast but not running because running jarred things. He walked back to the ship. Duno was at the top of the loading ramp, all four arms crossed, skin gone pale. Gray, the color it turned when he was genuinely frightened. "Get us in the air," Rylan said as he walked past. "Rylan, do you know what the Veil do to people who? Storm is 9 minutes out. Get us in the air." Duno looked at the hatchling, at Rylan, at the chemical wall rolling across the horizon. He got them in the air. Rylan carried the hatchling to the back of the ship, to the small cargo bay. He had cleared for exactly nothing, because he had not expected to need it. He set it down on a folded tarp, found his medical bag, started checking it over the way he had been trained: airway, breathing, circulation, everything. Els after. Behind him, Duno appeared in the doorway. "You understand," Duno said quietly, "that touching a veil without permission is considered an act of war." Rylan did not look up. He was checking the wing, clean fracture, treatable. "It was dying," he said. "The Conquered will not care about that." "Maybe not." He reached for the splint material in his kit. "But I do." Duno stood there for a long moment. Then he went back to the cockpit without another word. The storm swallowed Orth 5 behind them. The hatchling breathed. Slowly, shallowly, but it breathed. The hatchling had not moved in 4 hours. It was breathing. Rylan had checked 6 times, but it lay on the folded tarp in the cargo bay like something that had already given up. Its scales had a dull look to them, no shine. He had read once in a wildlife field manual for relief workers that healthy reptilian species had a certain surface quality to their scales, a kind of life in them. This one looked like old stone. He sat beside it on an upturned supply crate and checked the wing splint. Again it had held. The fracture was clean, which meant if the bone set properly, the wing would work again, eventually, if the hatchling survived long enough for eventually to matter. He had found a nutrition paste in his med kit, designed for multi-species use, which in practice meant it tasted like nothing and worked on almost everyone. He had managed to get a small amount into the hatchling's mouth, using a dropper, working slowly, not forcing it. The swallow reflex was still there. That was something. From the cockpit, Duno called back without coming to the doorway. "I have been reading." "Good for you," Rylan said. "Not good, very much not good." A pause. "The Veil are a closed brood species. Hatchlings are never separated from the nesting group. If one goes missing, the brood marks it as a loss event. Do you know what that means?" "Tell me." "It means the Queen authorizes a full search. Every Veil ship in range gets the order. They scan everything. Every vessel, every station, every colony. In the sector." Another pause. "Rylan, they will find us." "How long?" "The colony evac was logged. Our departure is on record. If they access Conquered shipping lanes, which they can, they have full Tier 1 clearance. They will have our route within hours." Rylan looked at the hatchling. "Then we have hours." "Hours to do what?" "There is nowhere to go. You cannot outrun a Veil search fleet. You cannot hide from them. Their scanning tech is—" Duno made a small despairing sound. "We are going to die, Rylan. We are going to die. Because you picked up a lizard." "She's not a lizard." Silence from the cockpit. "You named it," Duno said finally. His voice had gone very quiet. "Please tell me you did not name it." Rylan had not planned to. It had happened the way things happened when you sat with a sick creature for 4 hours in a quiet ship. He had started talking to it because silence felt wrong, and somewhere in the talking he had started calling it something. "Sora," he said. Duno made the same sound he had made on the colony when Rylan first picked it up, the untranslatable one. The hatchling Sora shifted, just slightly, a small adjustment of her head turning her face a few degrees toward Rylan. Her eyes were still mostly closed, but there was something different in them now, less glaze, a thin line of color visible beneath the lids, dark amber. "Hey," Rylan said softly, "there you are." She did not respond, but she did not turn away either. He gave her another small dose of the nutrition paste. This time she swallowed it more deliberately, a choice rather than a reflex. Duno appeared in the doorway. He stayed well back. He looked at Sara. The way a person looks at a collapsed building they are being asked to walk into. "She is bigger than the images in the database," he said. "She's young, she'll get bigger." "That is not reassuring. How is the wing?" "Said. Clean break. She'll fly again if she survives the next day or two." Duno was quiet. Then, the Veil do not interact with other species, not willingly. Their whole history in conquered records is restricted. What little exists is accounts from species who encountered them and survived. He paused. Most did not. "I understand what I've done," Ryland said. "She was alone and dying. That is the whole size of it." Duno looked at Sara, really looked at her. He was quiet for a while. "She is very small," he said, "for something so dangerous. Most dangerous things are." The ship's long-range alert chimed. 3 short tones, then 1 long one. Duno moved back to the cockpit fast. Rylan heard him pulling up the scan. Results, heard the silence that followed. "Rylan." "I heard the tones. 3 Veil warship signatures. They are not heading for the colony site. They are heading for our current coordinates." A pause. "They already have us." Rylan placed his hand flat on the deck next to Sora, not touching her. Just close. She moved her head again, this time toward his hand. Her breath was slow, but even now, steadier than before. "All right," Rylan said, "then we don't run." "We sorry what?" "Running makes us look guilty. We hold position and we answer when they call." He stood up. "Make sure the medlog is formatted and ready to transmit. Everything I've done for her since we found her. Every dosage, every reading. You want to show them your notes. I want to show them she's alive because of those notes." He looked at the doorway to the cockpit. "Make the log ready, Duno." A very long pause. "I think," Duno said slowly, "that you may be the strangest human I have ever met. You've only met 4 humans. That makes it worse." He went to the cockpit. Rylan sat back down next to Sora. She had not moved her head away from his hand. He turned his palm up slowly and left it there beside her, just in case. The 3 warship signatures grew on the scanner screen. They did not run. The communication request came in hard and fast, not a hail, not a standard open channel greeting. It was a direct lock, the kind that bypassed every layer of normal ship protocol and simply opened, whether you wanted it to or not. The screen filled with something that was not a face, not in any way Rylan had a word for. The veil on the other end of the line was massive. It filled the frame completely, dark-armored scales over a long angular skull, eyes the color of old iron. It did not move when it spoke. Its voice came through the translator system as flat and clear as a blade being set on a table. "You are carrying something that belongs to the brood." Duno had pressed against the far wall, making no sound, which for Duno was more alarming than screaming. Rylan sat in the pilot chair, both hands visible, posture open. He had learned a long time ago that body language mattered, even when the other person was not the same species. Calm read as calm in most languages. "My name is Rylan Dax," he said. "Independent cargo runner, registry number DHX 441, and yes, I have a Veil hatchling on my ship." The Veil, a captain by the look of the markings, though Rylan was reading that entirely from the outline of the armor. did not respond for 3 full seconds. When it spoke again, the flat quality was still there but underneath. It was something like controlled pressure. You will state how the hatchling came to be in your possession. I found her on Orth 5 during the colony evacuation. She was under-collapsed. Debris, she was in shock, her wing was fractured. The chemical storm was 8 minutes out. He kept his voice even. I picked her up. I brought her onto my ship. I treated her. Another pause. You treated her. Wing splint, respiratory support, fluid replacement, nutrition paste, the multi-species kind. I checked the base compounds against what the database has. Unveil biology, which is very little but enough to confirm no toxic overlap. He paused. I have a full medlog, every step, every reading I can transmit it right now if that helps. Silence. The Veil looked at him for a long time, not calculating, encountering a thing it had no category for. Is the hatchling alive? It said. Not a question, a demand for a status report. Yes, her breathing has stabilized. The wing is set. She took nutrition about 2 hours ago. Her eye response is normal. Rylan leaned forward slightly. But I want to be honest with you, she is still weak. Moving her right now. A hard transfer, a cold dock rapid pressure change, could set her back hard. She needs at least another 36 hours before she is stable enough to move safely. You are telling me, the captain said slowly, that I cannot have her back yet. I am telling you that if you want her back healthy, 36 hours is safer. If you want her back now, I will hand her over right now. You are the ones with warships, that decision is yours. He held the captain's gaze. But I wanted you to have the real information, not just what was convenient for me. Another silence, longer this time. The captain turned its head the first movement it had made and said something in Veil to someone off-screen. A response came back, brief, sharp. The captain turned back. Your medlog, it said, transmit it. Rylan nodded at Duno. Duno, very carefully with the expression of a creature doing something it believed might be its last act, transmitted the log. More silence. The splint work, the captain said. You have done this before. Field medic training. I did emergency relief work for 6 years before cargo. Running, Rylan paused. I have set a lot of wings, mostly on Earth, different animals, but the principle is the same. You are from Earth. Yes. I have read the Concord classification for your world. The captain's tone did not change. Tier 3 pre-advanced, largely disregarded. That's us, Rylan said. And yet you knew enough to stabilize a Veil hatchling. I knew enough to treat a sick young creature. The species was new to me. The situation wasn't. He met those iron-colored eyes straight on. Where I come from, you don't walk past something that is small and hurt and alone. It doesn't matter what it is. The captain was quiet for what felt like a very long time. Then it said something that the translator took a moment to process, as though the word was rare even in the system's extensive library. Your ship will hold position, it said finally. You will be escorted not as a prisoner, as another translator pause as a carrier under brood oversight. Understood. In 36 hours, you will bring the hatchling to the escort vessel. Directly, any deviation from the given route will be treated as an act of aggression. It paused. One more thing, Rylan Dax. Yes. The hatchling, has she responded to you? Rylan thought about Sora turning her head toward his hand in the dark of the cargo bay. A little, he said. The captain looked at him. Something moved behind those iron eyes that Rylan could not name and did not try to. 36 hours, it said. Then the channel closed. Duno slid slowly down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. We are alive, he said. in a tone that suggested he was not entirely sure. "We're alive," Rylan agreed. He stood up. "I'm going to go check on Sora." He went to the cargo bay. She was awake, both eyes open, watching the doorway. Watching for him. The planet had no name in any Concord registry, just a set of coordinates, marked in red with a single word beneath them: Sovereign. Rylan had looked it up during the 36 hours of escort travel. That was all the record said. No surface data, no atmospheric readings, no images. Just the coordinates and that one word, sitting there like a door with no handle. The planet itself did not look dangerous from orbit. It looked old, vast, dark. Mountain ranges ran across the surface like scars, somewhere in the deep valleys. Between them there was fire, not burning, just present, the way heat lives. Inside old stone, the sky was a deep amber, no clouds, just light thick and slow, like the air itself was made of something heavier than air. Duno had not spoken for most of the journey. When he did, it was only practical things, course corrections, power readings. He had the expression of someone who had accepted a situation they could not change and were simply waiting for it to end one way or another. Sora had been awake for most of it. She was stronger now. She could hold her head up for long periods. She had begun making sounds, quiet ones, low in her chest, that Rylan had started to think of as her version of commentary on things. She made one when the planet filled the forward screen. "I know," Rylan said. She looked at him, then back at the planet. They were brought down on a landing platform, cut directly into the rock of a cliff face. The stone around it was carved, not in a decorative way, but in the way that something very old gets shaped when enough powerful things land on it over enough years, that the stone simply learns the shape of them. 6 Veil warriors were waiting. None of them moved as Rylan stepped out carrying Sora wrapped loosely in his jacket, not because she needed the warmth now, but because she seemed to settle when it was around her. Captain Orr was there, too. Rylan recognized the armor markings now. Orr looked at Sora first. A long look, something moved in its expression. Quick, controlled, gone before Rylan could name it. Then it looked at Rylan. "You will carry her in," Orr said. "Do not put her down until the Queen speaks." Rylan nodded. Duno stayed on the ship without being asked. The chamber they were brought to was not what Rylan had expected. He had imagined something designed to overwhelm. High ceilings, gold, the usual architecture of power. Instead it was stone, raw stone. The walls were not decorated, the floor was flat. The space was enormous but felt compressed, the way silence can feel heavy in a large room. There were veil along the walls, many of them. They did not move or speak. They watched. Even the air felt like it was paying attention. Visa was not sitting on anything that looked like a throne. She was simply there at the far end of the chamber, in the way that very old, very large things are simply present in a space, like they were there before the room was built around them, and they will be there after it falls. She was larger than Captain, or larger than any of the warriors. Her scales were black with a deep blue edge, the kind of color that only appears where something has lived long enough to carry it. She looked at Sora. She did not look at Rylan. Sora, who had been quiet since they landed, made a sound, a different one. Higher she shifted in Rylan's arms, her head turned toward Visa. Then, after a moment, she turned it back toward Rylan and went still again. The chamber was absolutely silent. Visa looked at Rylan then. For the first time, he held it. "Why?" she said. The translator flattened her voice, but not the weight behind it. "Why did you take what was left?" "She wasn't left on purpose," Rylan said. "She was buried under debris in a storm evacuation. She would have died alone if I hadn't found her. She was weak, unfit to survive." She's a child, Ryland said, not angry, just clear, where I come from. We don't decide a child's worth based on how strong they are at birth. Visa was quiet. You want a reward, she said. No. Then what do you want? Ryland looked at Sora. I want to know she's going to be all right. He looked back at Visa. That's it. I'd like to hear it from you. Since you're her mother. Something changed in the chamber. Ryland did not see it happen. He felt it. The way you feel a pressure shift before weather moves in. The veil along the walls all moved at exactly the same moment. A single slow lean forward. Visa made a sound, deep and resonant, not through the translator, just sound. The raw kind. Then she said one word in veil, and every warrior in the room lowered their head. Ryland stood there holding Sora, and had absolutely no idea what had just happened. Captain Orm moved to his side, quiet and deliberate. She has declared you. Kin marked, it said, low enough that only Ryland could hear. You carry a brood bond. No being in conquered space may harm you without answering to every veil alive. Ryland looked at Sora. She had tucked her chin against his arm. Is she going to be okay? He asked. Or almost showed something that might have been a smile. Yes, it said, she will be more than okay. Ryland breathed out. It was the first real breath he had taken since Orth 5. The Conquered news feeds picked up the story in under 40 hours. Ryland did not know how. He had not spoken to anyone. Duno had not spoken to anyone. The Veil certainly did not speak to journalists, but somehow between the shipping lane records and the colonial evacuation logs and whatever networks monitored Veil fleet movement, someone put it together. By the time Ryland's freighter cleared Veil sovereign space and re-entered the Conquered shipping corridor, his registry number was already in 17 separate news reports. The headlines were strange. He read them on the ship's feed in the order they arrived, and each one seemed to be about a slightly different version of him. One said, Human SMUGGLES VAEL Hatchling. Another said, Cargo runner survives. VAEL contact first in recorded history. A third, from a small feed out of a station he had never visited, said simply, a human refused to leave IT behind. That one he read twice. Duno was sitting across from him at the small table in the ship's midsection, eating a meal he had not touched for the first 20 minutes. His color had returned the normal calm blue, but his eyes kept going to the news feed and then away from it. Governor Bolt filed a complaint, Duno said. Unauthorized contact with a Tier 1 species. Article 7 of the Conquered Contact Protocol. I know. It was dismissed, Duno paused, within 2 hours of being filed. Dismissal notice listed the reason as complainant lacks standing to pursue charges against a brood-marked individual of the Veil. He looked up. The Conquered legal system has never used that phrase before. They had to create the category. That's something. The legal scholars on Preth Station are calling it the most significant development in Conquered law in 40 years. Duno set down his utensil. Because of a cargo runner who picked up a lizard. She is not a lizard, Ryland said without heat. I know she is not a lizard. Duno was quiet a moment. I know that now. The feed kept moving. Species that Ryland had interacted with maybe twice in his career were now sending formal inquiries through the Conquered diplomatic channel attached to his registry number. The Pelrani Collective, Duno's people, issued a statement that was very carefully worded, but essentially said they had always believed humans showed unusual promise. A research group on Veth 2 published an analysis titled Human Empathy as INTERSPECIES Strategic Asset, which Ryland did not read past the title. It made him feel like a specimen in a jar. What he did read was a short post from a Grethian colony medic, We have been underestimating humans because they do not build the biggest ships. We forgot to ask what they build instead. A formal message arrived from Visa through the Veil diplomatic channel. No greeting, no signature beyond a brood seal he now recognized, just 3 lines. The hatchling is recovering well. She asks for you in the only way she knows how. You have standing access to Veil-protected space and trade routes. No conditions. Rylan read it 3 times, showed it to Duno. Duno read it again. She asks for you, he said quietly. Yeah. In the only way she knows how. Yeah, Rylan put the message down. She turns her head toward the door. Duno was quiet for a long time after that. 2 days later, a conquered trade hub they stopped at for fuel resupply treated. Rylan, in a way no trade hub had ever treated him before. The dock official waived the standard berth fee without being asked. A supply vendor offered him a discount he did not request. 3 different species representatives approached him personally just to speak with him, which had never happened in 12 years of cargo running. He did not know how to act with any of it. He nodded, said thank you, got back on his ship. You are aware, he said, as they cleared the station and re-entered the shipping lane, that you have changed something, not just for yourself. For humans. I just didn't leave a sick kid behind. Rylan. Duno's voice was patient in the way it only got when he felt something was important. I have traveled with you for 4 years. In that time, you have given your medical supplies to a species that could not pay you back, rerouted our cargo run to drop food at a station that was not on our contract, and on 2 separate occasions physically stood between someone small and something dangerous. He paused. You do this, it is simply what you do, and until now, no one in the galaxy was watching. Rylan looked out at the shipping lane, at the slow drift of other vessels moving through the dark. I'm not special, Duno. I know, Duno said. That is what makes it matter. The galaxy was not afraid of you because you are strong. It was not surprised by you because you are clever. It is paying attention now because you simply did not look away. He picked up his utensil again. Humans do not look away. I do not think the Conquered knew that yet. The feed pinged. New message. Rylan glanced at it. A research team in a distant sector, stranded, surrounded by something the report called extremely hostile. No rescue had been attempted. The message was addressed directly to him. It ended with, we were told to ask for you by name. We were told you find ways through. He looked at the message for a while. Then he looked at Duno. Duno put down his food. Do not even say it, he said, but he was already reaching for the navigation panel. The Drath did not communicate. That was what the research team's distress report said. They send signals. They do not respond to signals. They circle. They wait. They take things apart to see what is inside. The report included a note from the senior researcher, a Grethian named Pell. We have tried every protocol. They do not respond to threat displays or submission displays. We do not know what they respond to. We are running out of time. Rylan read the full report twice on the way in. Then he put it down and thought. The Drath were ambush hunters. Every species that tried to negotiate had arrived either armed or visibly afraid. The Drath read both the same way, as signals that something was worth attacking. He thought about animals on Earth, the dangerous ones, not aggressive, just uncertain, the ones that struck when cornered and relaxed only when the thing in front of them stopped looking like a threat. Duno watched him think and said nothing. They came in without weapons charged. Rylan had been specific about that. Duno had argued, then checked the Veil escort codes loaded into their transponder and gone quiet. 3 Drath vessels were holding position. around the station like stones in slow orbit. They did not move when Ryland's freighter arrived. They did not respond to his hail. He did not hail again, he just held position. For 40 minutes nothing happened. Duno kept his hands near the controls and his opinions to himself. Ryland watched the draft ships on the forward screen and waited. One of them moved, not toward them, just repositioned, a slight shift. The way an animal turns its head to get a better angle. Ryland opened a channel, not to them. He made it open broadcast local rain only, and he started talking, not negotiating, not demanding, not explaining who he was or what he wanted. He described in plain language what the research team was studying and why, the mineral formations, what made them unusual, what Pell had found in 11 months of work. He talked for 6 minutes, then he closed the channel and waited again. 20 minutes later, one of the draft ships broadcast a signal, not language. A tone pattern. Ryland did not know what it meant. He sent a tone pattern back. 3 short, 1 long, because it was the simplest response he could think of. That showed he had heard it without trying to dominate the exchange. Duno looked at him. "You are talking to them like they are curious," he said. "They are curious," Ryland said. "They have been circling a station for days. Without taking it apart, something is making them wait. You think they want to know what is inside? I think they always want to know what is inside. I think they just haven't decided yet if they need to break it to find out." He opened another broadcast and described himself, not his registry, just who he was, where he was from, what he did. He mentioned Sara. He mentioned Orth 5. He spoke the way you speak to someone who does not share your language but is paying attention. 3 hours after he arrived, one draft vessel pulled back, then the second. The third held position another hour, then followed. The research station opened its dock. Pell met him at the airlock. She had the careful eyes of someone frightened. For a long time, and not yet sure it was over. "How?" she said. "I stopped signaling and started talking," he said. "There is a difference." He spent 2 hours on the station, helping Pell secure her research and prep the team for transport. On the way out, he broadcast one more open signal. Pell's findings, the mineral formations, their age, what they implied about the sector's star system, shared the way you share something interesting with someone nearby who might want to know. Duno said quietly from the cockpit, "You just gave them her research." "Something worth more than a broken station," Ryland said. "Something to think about." A week later, a message from Pell. The draft had not returned. A Concord Science Committee had reached out, partly because a draft vessel had transmitted fragments of her data, unasked, to a Concord monitoring relay. She ended it with, "I do not know what you did, but they listened." The second message was from Sora, a holo this time sent through the veil. Diplomatic channel with no note attached, just the image. She was larger now. Her wing was fully open in the holo, spread wide, healthy and whole. She was looking directly at the recorder with those dark amber eyes. She made the same sound she had made the first time. She opened her eyes at him. In the cargo bay of his ship, on a dirty tarp, wrapped in his jacket in the middle of nowhere. Duno saw the holo from the doorway. He was quiet for a moment. "You know the Concord talks about you now," he said. "In the briefings. In the diplomatic channels. They are trying to understand what to call it. What you do, what humans do." Ryland closed the holo. He checked the nav console. There was a new route. Waiting, a simple one. Just cargo, just work. "They will figure it out," he said. He opened the route and flew. Somewhere in old stone chambers on a world with no registry name, a young Vale spread her healed wings and leapt. No one in the Concord had mapped what happens when a species turns compassion into a force. They were beginning to understand it now, not because humans were the strongest, but because when they found something small and hurt and alone, they did not leave it there. That, it turned out, was enough.